I'm joined now by Jesse Eisenberg, the playwright and star of the new off-Broadway play, The Spoils. Jesse, thank you so much for having me and Oliver J. in your dressing room.
Thanks for having me on your show.
So let's talk The Spoils. We meet a group of five 20-somethings in a New York apartment, and you play Ben, who is not the nicest Jewish boy, if you will.
You know, Ben is what I would consider to be a kind of maybe a casualty of like, based on what you bring up his religion, maybe a casualty of the maybe third generation complacency. You know, so probably his grandparents came over here and probably worked some job that they didn't like, probably gave up their lives and sacrificed their, let's say, greater hopes or whatever for their children, who probably became, well, in my character's case, a dentist, and then my character has been given so much that he's lost sense of drive, he's lost a sense of meaning in life, and he's lost even kind of a good nature. My character's roommate is a kind of earnest Nepalese immigrant upstart who is got a scholarship to study at NYU, a school for which my character has just been ejected from. So you see them juxtaposed.
Now, what first attracted you to, or inspired you to want to tell this story?
I was inspired to write it because I was thinking about conversations I've had with my Nepalese friend, Kalyan, who the character is based on, who's actually never been to the States. I met him in Nepal when I was there.
Visiting your friend Kalyan in Nepal, didn't I might have read that you found a book that he had that was dealing with Jewish culture and Jewish history?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he, yeah, actually one of the main kind of inspiring things for this play was that when I was in his house in, you know, a suburb of Kathmandu, where there's, you know, not a Jewish person probably until you hit Haifa, there was a book, Paul Johnson, The History of the Jews, and he said it was one of his favorite books. He's very interested in Jewish culture, and I was so shocked because I know very little about Jewish culture. I mean, I know about it just by virtue of kind of growing up with it, but I probably in some way unconsciously reject my feeling saddled with, you know, it. So just like everybody rejects, you know, parts of their identity in an attempt to form their own identity.
Identifying with Ben, is that something that you feel?
Yeah, I relate to everybody in the play. That's how I was able to write them. I relate to my character a lot. He's a very sensitive guy who is so sensitive that he has built up this horrible wall. And I guess the play overall is funny, but he is miserable.
Obviously, you're not miserable.
I'm not that happy, but that's not by virtue of my circumstances being bad. I just wasn't made that way. So I'm at the theater every night for 4 o'clock for an 8 o'clock show. I pace around the theater all day. I'm not like going out at night and doing fun things. I mean, I can relate to feeling alienated and feeling... Now, look, I don't have anything bad in my life, but that doesn't mean I'm like thrilled by it. I probably should be, but I'm not. So I don't know. I could relate to his feeling alienated, his feelings of, you know, depression, anxieties, everything he deals with, I deal with. He's not nice to people. I'm nice to people, but I can understand how maybe you take those bad feelings to such a degree that you would end up hurting other people.
What first attracted you to theater and acting, you know, way back when? The first play was like 1996, right?
I did theater when I was younger because I have an older sister who was, I guess, shy, so my parents she liked the theater. It kind of brought her out of her shell. So I did it to be with her, and then I was maybe kind of, I had trouble in school, so the theater gave me an outlet to be able to go and when I was old enough to like audition for things in New York City, I could miss a day, miss a few hours of school to go do that. It just gave me an outlet, just even psychologically, gave me something else to think about.
Absolutely. So what made you ready or wanting to transition from being just an actor to a playwright and actor?
Well, acting can be a frustrating experience on a few levels. One is that you can be out of work for quite a long time because you can do, like, for example, I do movies and then I'm out of work for 6 months. It's just the nature of it. Even if you're a very successful actor, you still are out of work just by virtue of having to wait for things to come together. So that's happened to me, and so I have time, and I have a lot of thoughts and ideas, and I want to express them. Sometimes you're not in a play or something or a movie that can express those thoughts, so I like to create it on my own. I also like the medium of theater because my plays are unedited. When I write for, like, when I write for screen, you know, for, like, I wrote movie scripts, none of them get made because you have to, you know, constantly change things to appeal to either famous actors or whatever.
I have to tell you, with a lot of what I've read in addition to seeing the play, interviews that you've given, there's a lot of talk or thought that Bennett has some mental illness?
Yes, somebody asked me last week about it, and I will say the answer is that I know a lot of people with mental illness, and to quote my friend Louis Theroux, who made a great documentary about mental illness recently, actually a month ago, there are as many mental illnesses as there are people with them. That's been my experience with mental illness, is that I know people who are diagnosed with the same thing and they act completely differently, especially now with medication. So people act completely differently. I would say my character self-medicates with pot because he has some kind of depression, anxiety, although I would be remiss to label it because I think even the best therapists in the world, and I see some of them personally, they say you can't diagnose anything with complete accuracy when it comes to mental illness. I don't think we're there yet. I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know anything about this, but I will say as a writer who's trying to document people, I'm writing what I see, I'm writing what I know, I'm writing what I feel, and if you want to label it, I think that's probably
A missed opportunity to understand a character.
yeah, and a missed opportunity to understand drama and to understand like human interactions and why somebody behaves like they do. My mother, you know, saw my play obviously, and my mother thinks that the character is a really sensitive person who's so overwhelmed with sensitivity that he's like, he puts up this wall. So you can call that a mental illness or you can call that a defense mechanism. I would more agree with my mother than I would with, you know, a journalist asked me last week, does he have he thought he had mental illness. I just think that's kind of like a base, easy way to characterize something that's much more complicated. And if you don't want to see the complexity when you go to see a play, you'll see somebody with mental illness.